My name is Evelyn Cole. I'm 33, work in financial compliance at a mid-size investment firm in Denver, and I don't forget. Not birthdays, not due dates, and definitely not debts. People sometimes mistake me for cold. I'm not. I'm meticulous. I remember what people owe me. Not just money but truth, effort, honesty. I track things. Conversations, timelines, little inconsistencies in people's stories that don't quite fit. It's not paranoia. It's pattern recognition. It's what I do for a living, and it's what I've always done in life. My younger sister, Danielle, is 31. We're not particularly close. We didn't grow up in a warm household. Our mother was a nurse who worked night shifts and eventually burned out into pills and silence, and our father, well, he ran off when I was 10. Danielle and I were raised more by circumstance than family. I grew up fast. She leaned into escapism. Even as adults, she's always been that way. The dreamer. The one who couldn't hold a job for more than a year without calling it toxic or a bad fit. She lived in 5 cities before she was 28. Had 3 serious relationships that all ended in the same pattern: drama, crying, blaming. She liked pretty things. Expensive brunches, last-minute trips to LA. Photo shoots she never paid for. She lived off charm and well-timed panic. I never loaned her money before. I saw what happened with our cousin Eliza, who gave Danielle $2,000 to cover rent and never saw a penny of it back. Danielle cried, said she'd been robbed. Her landlord was a predator. She had mental health spirals. Eliza forgave her. Danielle never mentioned it again. So when Danielle called me last spring, I should have just let it ring. It was a Sunday evening. I had just sat down with a glass of Merlot, reading depositions for a case involving a client under SEC investigation. The phone lit up. Danielle. I let it ring once, twice. Third time I answered. Eve. I'm sorry to call out of nowhere, she said, her voice hoarse. I need your help. I don't know what to do anymore. She was crying. Genuinely, or at least good enough to sound like it. I asked what happened. She said she'd been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease, something obscure that I had to Google, something about nerve inflammation and possible organ failure. She said her insurance didn't cover integrative treatments, that she was trying to avoid steroids and chemotherapy because it would ruin her body. She wanted to try something new, something outside the box. The clinic was in Arizona, and they needed $10,000 up front. She said she'd exhausted her savings. She said she didn't know who else to call. I remember sitting there, staring at the wine glass, thinking, here it is. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I said, I need everything in writing. She paused. You mean like what? I want your diagnosis, your treatment plan, the name of the clinic, a breakdown of the costs. I want you to write down that you're borrowing this money, and when you plan to pay it back. Another pause. Then, okay, I can do that. She sent everything within 2 hours. I received a long email, full of emotional language and gratitude. Attached was a PDF invoice, a shady-looking one, from a clinic called the Earth's Embrace Wellness Center, located somewhere outside of Tucson. It included buzzwords like detox protocol, bioelectric therapy, and soul alignment. No medical credentials were listed, just a P.O. box and a hotline number. The email also included a message from Danielle. I know I've made mistakes in the past. I know I've let people down. But this time is different. This is my life. I need this to live. I swear I'll pay you back by next March. I'm starting a remote job soon and I'll make this right. Promise. I wired her the $10,000 the next morning from my business account with the memo line, Medical Treatment Loan Danielle Cole. And then I opened a folder on my desktop and named it Danielle Paper Trail. At first she kept me updated. Kind of. She'd text vague affirmations. Had my first round of ozone therapy today. Feel hopeful. Doing a liver flush cleanse next week. Praying it works. It's exhausting, but I think I'm finally turning a corner. But I never saw lab results. No appointments. No prescriptions. And she refused to do a video call, always citing fatigue or face swelling. I'm not stupid. I didn't believe her. I didn't confront her either. I just let her keep talking, documenting every word. I saved the texts, backed up the email, and printed everything for offline storage. I made copies of the wire transfer. I checked the clinic's credentials. It wasn't even licensed. It was a holistic retreat center, with ties to a QAnon-style wellness cult and several pending lawsuits. I knew even then she was lying. But I waited. People think revenge is loud, a scream, a slap, a scene. But real revenge is patient. It's methodical. It's knowing the blade is in your hand and smiling while they hold the handle thinking they're safe. Danielle thought she got away with it. She was wrong. 11 months passed. Not once did Danielle mention repayment. Not a word. No calendar reminder. No, I haven't forgotten. Nothing. Radio silence. I didn't bring it up either. I made a conscious choice not to chase it. A trap doesn't spring by yelling at the prey. You wait. You let them get comfortable. I followed her on social media, of course. Her Instagram was a curated little shrine to illusion. Daily affirmations, smoothie bowls, blurry sunset photos, long captions about healing and trusting the journey. She never once mentioned her condition by name. Never tagged the clinic. Never showed a single picture of an IV, a pill bottle, or even a goddamn waiting room chair. But I didn't unfollow her. No. I watched. That's when it happened. A Tuesday afternoon in February, 3:12 p.m. I was in a client review meeting when my phone buzzed with a notification. Danielical Wellness posted for the first time in a while. I opened it. My breath didn't catch. My stomach didn't turn. I just stared at the screen like it was data. Like it was a spreadsheet with one box that didn't match the formula. There she was. Danielle on a white sand beach, legs stretched out under a palm tree, sunglasses on, smiling like she'd been healed by Jesus himself. Behind her, turquoise water shimmered like it was photoshopped. She held a tropical drink, 2 colors, pineapple wedge on the rim, a little paper umbrella tucked in like a joke. Her caption read, "Sometimes the body needs more than medicine. It needs peace. Spiral shell sparkles #Maldives #healing journey #solo travel." The Maldives. Not a clinic. Not a hospital. The goddamn Maldives. I stared at the caption for a long time. Then I read the comments. "You look amazing. OMG queen, glowing. So proud of you for taking time to heal yellow heart." She replied to one of them. This trip was soul-saving. I manifested it. I locked my phone, folded it into my blazer pocket. I excused myself from the meeting, walked to the break room, and stared out the window with my arms crossed while the Denver skyline buzzed in the distance. That moment? That's when it clicked. It wasn't just about the money. It was the insult. The assumption that I'd forget. That I was weak, sentimental, or too busy to notice. That she could wrap her theft in hashtags and glitter. And I'd never look close enough to call it what it was. I didn't message her. I didn't like the photo. I didn't text our mother and tell her what Danielle had done. I opened my desktop folder. I added the Instagram screenshots. I renamed it Danielle Fraud. The next few days I became clinical. I called it Phase 1 in my head. I started with the so-called clinic. I contacted Arizona's Department of Health Services. The facility wasn't licensed, and it had 2 cease and desist notices for operating outside of its permitted scope. One lawsuit was pending involving fraudulent medical claims and misuse of client funds. I saved the PDF from the court docket. Then I pulled my own transfer logs from the bank. I downloaded every statement showing the $10,000 leaving my account, cross-referenced with Danielle's text claiming it was for necessary treatment. I added the PDF invoice, the fake one, and marked it with red annotations detailing why it violated basic standards for billing. I wrote up a short, professional summary of the events in a Word doc, bullet-pointed, with dates and evidence files noted by name. At this point, it wasn't revenge. It was a case file. A week later, she posted another set of vacation pictures. This time, she was swimming with dolphins. Someone else was clearly taking the photo. A guy, I assumed, though she didn't tag anyone. Another caption full of wisdom. "You can't truly heal until you allow joy to return." Blue heart dolphin. I smiled at that one. Not out of humor. Out of certainty. It was the moment I decided she would never feel this kind of joy again. Not without knowing it could be taken away. And I wasn't going to take it with screams. I was going to take it with silence and paperwork. 2 weeks later, I called the Internal Revenue Service. There's a little-known form, 3949, used for reporting tax fraud or evasion. Anyone can file it. You don't need to be a lawyer. You just need facts. I filled it out carefully. Reported the $10,000 as undeclared income obtained through fraudulent misrepresentation. Attached supporting documents. I wrote in the remarks section, individual claimed funds were for a medical treatment. Evidence suggests it was used for personal travel. Supporting documentation attached, including communication, financial transfers, and photographic evidence of misuse. The IRS doesn't move fast, but they do move. And once they do not forget. I printed a copy for my records, added it to the folder. Then I began preparing the civil suit. Danielle still had no idea. She texted me 3 days after I filed with the IRS, completely unaware. A casual message. "Hey, we should catch up soon." I have some exciting things happening. Hope you're doing okay, Yellow Heart. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the template for small claims court, fraudulent misrepresentation. Colorado allows claims up to $7,500 in small claims court. I wasn't trying to recoup everything. I wanted it on the record. I wanted her name filed in a courtroom. I wanted her to stand in front of a judge and try to explain herself without hashtags and cocktail filters. I filed the case. I had no illusion she'd take it seriously. And that was the beauty of it. Because by the time she realized the storm was coming, it was already overhead. The court date came faster than expected. I filed the claim mid-March. By April 12th, I had a date on the docket. May 2nd, 9 a.m., County Courtroom 3B. I sent Danielle the official notice of the lawsuit through certified mail, with a signature requirement. I got the notification 2 days later. Delivered. Signed Nicole. Still, she didn't text me. Not a word. I didn't expect her to. People like Danielle don't engage directly when the mask starts slipping. They stall, they spin, they deflect. Most of all, they underestimate you. That was her first mistake. Courtroom 3B was smaller than I expected. Wood-paneled walls. A row of chairs along the back wall. One large table for each party, separated by a narrow aisle. No jury, just a judge, some legal clerks, and the clean smell of sterilized air. I arrived early. Wore a fitted navy suit, hair back, no makeup. Neutral. Unshakable. I brought the folder. Danielle Fraud, now full and thick with index tabs. She walked in at 8:56 a.m. Late but not enough to get sanctioned. Of course. She wore oversized sunglasses despite the fluorescent lights, a beige trench coat over a floral jumpsuit, like she was attending brunch and not court. I watched her scan the room. She saw me, paused, then offered a tight, confused smile, like she didn't understand why I was there. She came and sat beside me at the defendant's table, whispered, "What the hell is this?" I didn't turn. I didn't smile. I just said, "It's accountability." Her mouth opened like she wanted to snap back. But the judge entered, called us to stand, and she fell silent. The clerk read the case title, Cole vs. Cole, Civil Claim for Fraudulent Misrepresentation. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman named Judge Pritchard, asked if both parties were present. "I am," I said clearly. Danielle muttered, "Yes, I guess." That earned her the first glance from the judge, measured unimpressed. "Miss Cole," she looked at me, "you may proceed." I opened the folder. I began calmly. "Your Honor, I am here because my sister requested and received a $10,000 personal loan from me in April of last year, claiming it was to pay for necessary medical treatment not covered by insurance. I have written proof of that request, her diagnosis claims, and the stated reason for the money. However, I laid out the photos from her Maldives trip, the fake invoice from the unlicensed clinic, and my notarized summary of the events. The funds were not used for medical care. They were used for personal luxury travel. I am seeking a judgment to formally acknowledge the fraudulent nature of the loan and restitution in the amount of $7,500, which is the maximum small claims limit." The judge raised her brows slightly as she flipped through the folder I submitted. She turned to Danielle. "Miss Cole, do you dispute the claim that you accepted a loan under false pretenses?" Danielle blinked. "I never said it was a loan. I said I needed help. It was a gift." She was just being dramatic. Judge Pritchard. "Do you have that in writing?" Danielle paused. "No, but..." "Miss Cole," the judge cut in. "This is a court of evidence, not assumption. Your sister has provided signed communication, a bank transfer clearly marked for medical treatment, and proof of misuse. You've brought no evidence to refute her claim." Danielle's voice cracked. "I didn't know this would go this far. She never said she'd take me to court." The judge's voice hardened. "That doesn't matter. What matters is the nature of the transaction and the misrepresentation involved. You claimed a medical emergency. You used the funds for international travel. That constitutes fraud." Danielle went silent. For the first time, really silent. The ruling took 10 minutes. The judge awarded me the full $7,500, plus filing fees. Danielle was instructed to begin payments within 30 days or face wage garnishment. The civil judgment would appear on her financial record for 7 years. I thanked the judge, picked up my folder. Danielle was still sitting at the table, staring at her hands like they'd betrayed her. As I passed her, she looked up. "You planned this," she said. I didn't respond. She kept going. "You waited. You set me up." I turned then. "Just a little." "No," I said. "I gave you a chance to be honest. You chose the beach." Outside the courthouse, the sky was bright. I walked slow, not triumphant, just clear. I sat in my car. Didn't cry. Didn't celebrate. I just exhaled. 1 pillar down. 2 to go. Because this wasn't over. Not yet. Danielle still had her job. She still had friends applauding her for self-care. She was still the hero of her own story. But not for long. 2 days later, I emailed her employer. Danielle worked as a brand strategist at a boutique PR firm in Boulder called Larkin Wren. I'd always found the name pretentious. The kind of place that sold ethics in the abstract while managing image over substance. Their tagline, ironically enough, was, "Integrity is everything." They had sleek glass offices, a pastel-heavy Instagram feed, and a client list full of mid-level tech startups, wellness influencers, and conscious capitalists. I'd seen Danielle post photos of the office wine bar, and caption them with hashtags like #BossBabe and #BrandingQueen. To them, Danielle was polished, free-spirited, charming. They didn't know what I knew. They didn't see the file. The email took me 2 days to write. Not because I struggled with the words, but because it had to land with exact precision, not accusatory, not emotional, just evidence. The tone was corporate, professional, calm. Subject: concerning employee misrepresentation, Danielle Cole. To compliance at Larkin Wren Co. Dear Larkin Wren compliance team, I am writing to inform you of a situation involving one of your employees, Danielle Cole, that may be of concern to your firm's reputation and internal standards. Danielle Cole knowingly obtained $10,000 from a family member under the false pretense of needing urgent medical treatment. Instead, she used these funds for international leisure travel and personal luxury. I am attaching the following documentation for your review. Signed communication where she misrepresents a medical emergency. Bank transfer documentation marked medical treatment loan. A fabricated invoice from an unlicensed wellness clinic. Public social media post showing Danielle vacationing in the Maldives during the period in which she claimed to be undergoing treatment. A civil judgment from Denver County Court. Case #DRE2873. Confirming fraudulent misrepresentation. I am aware that this matter is personal in nature, but when someone who publicly represents your company engages in proven fraud, it reflects on more than just her personal ethics. You may verify all court records through Denver County's online portal. Thank you for your time. Regards, Cole. I didn't sign it with my full name. I didn't need to. Everything they needed was in the attachments. I hit send at 6:12 a.m. on a Wednesday, early enough to land at the top of their inbox. And then I waited. By Friday, Danielle's LinkedIn profile was gone. No announcement. No new chapter post. Just deleted. I confirmed it through the firm's staff directory. Her name had disappeared. Her company email bounced back. She was no longer employed. 2 days later, she called me. I watched her name flash across my phone screen. Danielle Mobile. I let it ring. She tried again. 5 times. The 6th time I picked up. Said nothing. She spoke first. Her voice was shredded. You got me fired. I didn't reply. You sent them that file, didn't you? Still silent. You think you're so clever, Eve. You think you're the only one who can play the long game. That one made me smile. What do you want from me? Huh, an apology. My blood? I said finally. I want you to start over. For real. Without lies. She laughed. Sharp bitter. This is you helping me? Ruining my F*********** life? I almost responded. Almost. But instead I ended the call. Calmly. She texted once more that night. You're sick. You need help. This isn't normal. I didn't reply. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the IRS. It wasn't addressed to me specifically. I had filed anonymously, but it was a status update on a whistleblower submission. The letter stated that an investigation had been opened under the Taxpayer Compliance Division. It didn't say what the outcome would be, but I already knew. The penalty for unreported income, especially when it exceeds $10,000, can be steep. Add in fraud, and Danielle would be looking at fines, interest, and possible criminal referral if the agents decided to dig deeper into her financials. And now she'd have to do it without a job. A few mutual acquaintances started reaching out. One of them, Marissa, a friend of Danielle's from her old LA yoga crowd, messaged me privately. Marissa, hey, I don't want to stir things, but Danny's saying you're like obsessed with destroying her. She says you hacked her socials and ruined her career? Me, no hacking. No obsession. Just truth. Marissa, I don't know the details, but you okay? Me, I'm excellent actually. Thanks for checking. I could feel the shift happening. Danielle wasn't the carefree, misunderstood healer anymore. She was radioactive. No job. No credibility. People didn't know what exactly happened, but they knew something had. And that's all it takes. Reputation once cracked crumbles fast. A week later, I was at my favorite coffee shop when I saw her in person. She looked thinner. Hair flat, no makeup. She wore a hoodie and jeans instead of her usual curated Earth Goddess attire. She saw me, froze. I didn't stop walking. But as I passed, I said without looking at her, "You're finally becoming someone real. Don't waste it." She didn't respond. Just stood there like someone had slapped her without touching her. That night I made a final update to the folder. Danielle Fraud was now complete. Labeled, archived, and uploaded to a secure drive. I burned a physical copy onto a USB, put it in an envelope, and locked it in my filing cabinet. Not out of spite, just record keeping, because this wasn't about vengeance. It was about erasure. The Danielle who scammed, who posed, who floated through life untouched by consequence. That person was gone now. The only question left was, what would she do now that she couldn't lie her way forward? The letter came in late June. It was postmarked from the Department of the Treasury. A stark white envelope, official seal in the corner, addressed to Danielle Cole, care of Cole Family Residence, Littleton, Colorado 80123. I didn't need to open it. I knew the format. I've helped clients prepare for them before. I knew what it said, or close enough. It was the first IRS contact letter, formally notifying the recipient that a case had been opened based on a whistleblower report. The tone would be neutral, procedural. It would ask for clarification on unreported income and request a response within 30 days. If she ignored it, the audit would escalate. If she answered poorly, it would deepen. Danielle sent me a photo of it. A grainy, poorly lit picture with one line attached. "You are seriously disturbed." I didn't reply. I saved the photo. Most people don't understand what a federal audit really is. It's not some scary man in a suit showing up at your door. It's a slow-grinding, unforgiving process. The IRS doesn't yell. Sends you letters. Each one colder than the last. Each demanding answers in precise formats. If you miss a deadline, they assume guilt. If you send them lies, they already know. They don't chase, they wait. And when they move, they don't miss. I knew Danielle would try to talk her way out of it. Probably call the hotline, cry. Tell them she was confused, overwhelmed, that it was a misunderstanding. She might even try to say I was a bitter sister with a grudge. But the IRS doesn't care about drama. They care about paper. And my paper was perfect. By July, things were unraveling faster than I'd expected. Danielle had moved back into our mother's house. She was working part-time at a local wellness spa. A grim little place that smelled like boiled herbs and had motivational quotes taped to its front window. She'd gone dark online. Her Instagram was deleted. Her website, a personal coaching service she'd launched 6 months earlier under the name Danielle Aligns, had quietly expired. The domain was gone. I heard from a mutual friend that she was telling people she was focusing inward, that she was unplugging to protect her peace. What she didn't mention was the notice of deficiency she'd received that same week. The audit had found undeclared income, $10,000 classified as misrepresented support received. They applied the fraud penalty, a 75% surcharge, plus interest dating back a year. That brought the total to just under $18,000. She had 45 days to respond or pay in full, and she didn't have it. She tried calling me again. Once. Then she emailed. The subject line was empty. From DanielleCole31@gmail.com to Evelyn Cole Financial@gmail.com. Date July 17, 2025. I hope you're happy. I'm being audited. I might lose my car. I might get a lien. I can't get another job with this on my record. You've completely destroyed my life. Was that your goal? To burn everything? To break your own sister? I'm sorry, okay? I lied. I was stupid. I didn't think you'd actually do all this. I didn't think it mattered. But I get it now. You win. You're smarter. You always were. I hope that feels good. I don't know what to do anymore. I read it once. Then I deleted it. Not because I felt nothing, but because it was too late. There was no undo button for what she'd done, not just to me, but to the people she manipulated over the years. She had always relied on the softness of others to save her from herself. This time there was no cushion, no distraction, no sympathetic boyfriend, no friends offering couches, just the raw consequence. And that, I realized, was what this had always been about. Not revenge. Exposure. I learned through our mother that Danielle had tried to apply for an emergency deferment. The IRS declined. She tried to dispute the penalty by claiming she didn't understand the tax implications. They responded with a 12-page letter, citing every statute she had violated, including several flagged under intentional deceit. A lien was filed against her. That meant the government could seize her bank account, her wages, her tax refunds for years to come. One of our old high school friends, Tyler, ran into her at a grocery store and told me she looked completely broken. Not in a physical way, she was still attractive, still well-dressed, but her eyes were empty. "Hello," he said. "She used to walk like she was starring in her own movie. Now she walks like she's afraid of being filmed." Around that time I stopped watching. I closed the folder one last time, removed the local copy from my hard drive, transferred everything to an encrypted USB and locked it away. I was done tracking her. I didn't need to see the rest. In August I received a card. No return address. Handwritten in blue ink. "Evelyn, I'm starting over. I'm going to pay it back. I don't know how yet, but I will. I'm sorry I turned your help into a lie. I think I needed someone to finally stop me. You did. D." I placed the card in a drawer and closed it. I didn't forgive her, but I didn't hate her either. There was no emotion left, just a kind of clinical calm. Justice had been done. Not loudly, not with fire, but with forms, files, facts. The envelope was white. No color, no logo. Just the cold black print of the return address. Department of the Treasury. Internal Revenue Service. Ogden. It arrived on a Monday. Danielle opened it at the kitchen table in our mother's house. I wasn't there, of course, but I know the way she gasps when her stomach drops. I've seen it before, the sound she makes when reality catches up to her fantasy. The letter inside was 5 pages long. It wasn't dramatic. There were no threats or emotional language. The IRS doesn't bother with that. It simply stated the facts. Your 2024 tax return has been selected for examination. We are requesting documentation to explain a discrepancy between your reported income and observed cash inflows. Please respond within 30 calendar days with the requested documentation. What they really meant was this. We know you took the money. We know you lied. Now show us why we shouldn't crush you. Danielle forwarded the letter to me. No subject line. No explanation. Just a photo of the first page with the caption, "Did you do this?" I didn't respond. She tried again 3 hours later. "This is insane. You're actually going to ruin my life over one mistake?" Still, I didn't respond. Instead, I added the forwarded email to the archive. Renamed it IRS_status_received. This was no longer a story about family. It was a system now. And once you enter a system, feelings become irrelevant. I knew how it would go. I'd worked in compliance for over a decade. The IRS starts soft. A few letters. A polite request for clarification. They give you space to hang yourself, enough rope to lie again or to confess. Danielle tried to charm them, of course. She called the audit line. Claimed she didn't understand what the issue was. That she'd never intentionally misreported anything. She asked if she could speak to someone who could explain it in simpler terms. They took notes. Every word. They asked her to submit proof of the original source of the $10,000. She panicked. Told them it was a gift from a family member for medical reasons. That it wasn't income. That it didn't need to be reported. They asked for a written agreement. She had one, but it was damning. It explicitly used the words loan for medical treatment. And the problem with lying to a federal agency is simple. They already have the truth. They're just watching to see how far you'll go. By July, she was spiraling. She called my mother crying one night. Said she couldn't sleep. That she was getting government letters every week. That they were asking her to submit more paperwork than she could even understand. Pay stubs. Account summaries. Medical documentation. She tried to submit the fake invoice again, the same one she'd sent me a year ago. The IRS flagged it in less than 4 days and added a formal request for confirmation of services rendered. The clinic no longer existed. I had predicted this. The Earth's Embrace Wellness Center had folded 6 months ago during a class action lawsuit related to fraudulent billing and patient harm. Danielle had no receipts, no proof, no legitimate contact person. The moment she tried to pass that document as real, the audit escalated from routine examination to fraud suspicion. On July 22nd, she received a notice of deficiency. She owed $10,000 in unreported income, $7,500 in civil fraud penalty, 75% of the amount omitted, $485 in interest. Total, $17,985. She had 90 days to contest it through U South Tax Court. She didn't. She couldn't afford the filing fee, much less an attorney. I found out she tried to apply for an installment agreement. The IRS responded with a conditional approval. Only if she made a $4,000 down payment. She didn't have it. At that point, a notice of federal tax lien was filed. That meant her credit was frozen. Any bank account in her name could be levied. Future income was eligible for garnishment. She couldn't take out loans, sign leases, or qualify for even a basic car loan without reporting the lien. She was 31 years old, and she was bankrupt morally, reputationally, and now financially. She emailed me again the night the lien was filed. I could tell because the timestamp was 2:14 a.m. People don't lie well at 2:14 a.m. They bleed. Subject: nothing left. I hope you're happy. I can't sleep. I've had 3 panic attacks this week. I'm so deep in this hole I don't know which way is up. I lied. Yes, I lied. But I was scared and desperate and stupid. And now I can't undo it. The government owns me. I have $13 in my checking account. Are you going to come for that too? I didn't reply. But I didn't feel good about it either. There's no pleasure in this part, only quiet. She had asked if I wanted blood. But what I wanted was simpler. I wanted her to stop lying. A week later my mother called. She rarely did. We're not close. But that night she left a voicemail. Evelyn, I know you and Danielle. I know things are bad. But she's not well. She's sleeping on the couch. She doesn't talk. She just stares. I don't think she knows who she is anymore. I'm not saying what she did was right. I'm not saying she shouldn't pay for it. I'm just saying she is paying. Every day. I didn't call back. But I sat with that message a long time. She was right. Danielle was paying. In full. I received one final communication from Danielle. This time not an email, not a voicemail. It was a handwritten note. Folded into thirds. Dropped in my mailbox with no return address. Evelyn, you destroyed the lie. I understand now. I don't know what's left of me. But whatever it is, it's yours. I'll pay it back. It might take years. But I will. Because I want to live like someone real. D. I folded the letter once. Then I filed it away in the drawer where I keep the rest of her story. It's quiet now. And maybe for once in her life so is she. There's a kind of silence that settles over someone when the world stops reacting to them. Danielle had always lived for the reaction, the laugh, the sympathy, the oh my God, that's so unfair. She thrived on attention like it was oxygen. Even if the source was pity. Especially if it was pity. But by August that silence was permanent. No one was laughing. No one was asking for her stories. No one was following her anymore. Not online. Not in life. The fantasy had cracked in too many places to repair. The scammer sister. The liar. The thief. The one who borrowed money under the guise of a terminal illness and spent it on piña coladas in the Maldives. That version of Danielle? She was gone. What was left behind was someone smaller. Barefaced. Broke. And finally real. She got a job at a diner. Not a trendy brunch spot or plant-based juice bar. A real diner. Vinyl booths. Neon signs. Greasy air. A place that smelled like scorched coffee and buttered pancakes. She was bussing tables for $12 an hour. I found out through someone else. She didn't tell me. She didn't tell anyone. She worked double shifts, walked to and from her mother's house 7 miles each way, because her car had been repossessed. She deleted every social media account she had. Her name disappeared from search engines. She was, in every digital sense, dead. Only real life remained. I drove past the diner once. Not to gloat. Just to see. It was raining. Hard. A summer downpour, fat and gray. She was out front in a too large yellow raincoat, wiping down outdoor tables that no one would use. Her face was bare. Her hair tied up messily, like she hadn't had time or energy to care. She looked up. We locked eyes. There was no hate in her expression. No fury. Just a flicker of recognition. And then, almost immediately, she looked away and went back to wiping the table. That was the moment I knew the reset was real. Not because she was working. Not because she was struggling. But because for once she didn't perform. She just endured. One night I got an envelope in the mail. Inside was a printed receipt from a money order for $50. Attached was a handwritten note. For the debt. I know it's small. But it's honest. D. I stared at it for a long time. $50 wouldn't change anything. But the way it was sent, quietly with no demand for acknowledgement, said everything. This wasn't a con. This wasn't guilt bait. It was just effort. Real effort. The kind you don't post about. My mother called me more often now. She didn't ask me to fix anything. I think she finally understood I wasn't going to. But she gave me updates sometimes without meaning to. Danielle made dinner tonight. Nothing fancy. Just beans and rice. But it was the first time she's cooked since March. She asked if I wanted to go for a walk this morning. We haven't done that since she was in high school. She cleaned out her room. Got rid of all the crystals. Said she doesn't need tools anymore. Said she just needs work. Each update was like another line on a ledger. Small credits in a column that had been negative for far too long. Not forgiveness, but balance. In late September, Danielle sent another payment. $100 this time. Another money order. Another short note. Still working. Still learning. D. She included a receipt stub from her paycheck. She was now working as a part-time receptionist at a physical therapy clinic. She wasn't calling it a healing space or vibrational work. Just a job. Just a job with hours and tasks and a name tag. She'd gotten it because a woman who came into the diner liked her attitude. Told her, "You're good at being present." Danielle didn't say she had a background in wellness. She didn't drop buzzwords. She just said, "I really need this." And the woman hired her. By October, her payments totaled $275. That meant nothing financially. But psychologically, it was everything. Because I didn't ask for those payments. I didn't even expect them. She had no court order, no legal requirement to send them to me. The civil case had been resolved. The IRS would be pulling at her wages for years. But she was still sending them. Quietly. Without comment. It was the closest thing to truth Danielle had ever offered. One evening she left a bag on my porch. No note. No knock. Inside, a paperback copy of Man's Search for Meaning, with a bookmark tucked at chapter 5. A tiny glass vial of sand. A printed Polaroid of her in the Maldives, half submerged in that clear turquoise water. And a small crumpled napkin with handwriting scrawled in blue ink. I lied. But the piece was real. I think I chased it because I didn't know how to build it. I'm trying now. Not to escape. Just to exist. D. I kept the sand. Threw away the picture. The book I read cover to cover over 2 nights. By Thanksgiving, my mother said Danielle had started taking classes at the local community college. Intro to Accounting. I laughed when she told me. Not because it was funny, but because it was full circle. A thief learning the system she once exploited. Numbers instead of energy. Forms instead of feelings. Danielle, finally facing the rules she had always danced around. I haven't seen her since that rainy day at the diner. We don't talk. I don't know if we ever will. But the debt is shrinking slowly, steadily. And for the first time in our lives, there is no lie between us. Only numbers. And silence. And something faintly resembling respect. It arrived in mid-December. A plain craft paper envelope. No return address. Postmarked locally. My name was written in blue ink, in a hand I knew too well, long loops, uncertain slant. Like someone unsure of how much space they deserve. Inside was a folded 10-page letter. Handwritten. No preamble, no Dear Evelyn. No signature at the end. Just this. I was never sick. Let's start there. You already know that, obviously, but I need to write it. Not because I think you'll forgive me, but because I need to know I said it. Out loud. Without dressing it up in spiritual language or trauma disclaimers. I lied. I took the story of a woman dying, and I wore it like a cloak so I wouldn't have to admit I was drowning in something much more ordinary, emptiness. I'd run out of options. Rent was behind, credit cards maxed out, my side gigs were drying up, and I didn't want to move back home. Again. I didn't want to feel like the cautionary tale people whisper about at weddings. Remember Danielle? She had so much potential. But more than anything, I didn't want to be normal. I couldn't bear the thought of being just another broke 31-year-old trying to figure out how to survive. So I turned it into a crisis. People forgive emergencies. I Googled rare conditions until I found one vague enough to be unprovable. I wrote out symptoms, practiced telling the story until it sounded like memory. And then I called you. You were the last person I thought would say yes. That's the irony. I thought you'd shut it down immediately, demand proof, hang up, cut me out. I had this whole plan for how I'd spin your coldness to our mom, to friends, to anyone who'd listen. But then you said, send it in writing. And I realized you weren't saying yes. You were building a record. The letter didn't beg. There were no excuses. No weaponized trauma. Just clarity. Cold, reflective clarity. I don't think I even enjoyed the Maldives. Isn't that pathetic? I spent most of the trip drunk, scrolling Instagram, comparing my life to other influencers, trying to force the illusion to feel real. I take 50 photos and hate everyone. I remember standing on the dock one morning, water so still it looked frozen, and I couldn't even feel grateful. All I could think was, what am I going to post next? I kept checking your profile, wondering when you'd call me out. I convinced myself you didn't care. But deep down I was waiting for it, wanted it. I think part of me hoped you'd expose me so I wouldn't have to keep pretending. I came home with no money, no plan, and a guilt so big I couldn't even name it. So I ghosted you. Told myself if I stayed quiet long enough, you'd move on. Instead, you moved in silence. Reading that part, I paused. Not because I was surprised, but because she finally understood. She knew what I'd done. She'd seen the long game now. Not vengeance, not public humiliation. Just the slow, methodical erasure of illusion. When the court papers came, I laughed. Not because I thought it was funny, but because it was perfect. Of course you'd go through the system. Of course you'd do it by the book. You never yelled. Never screamed. Never posted vague threats like I would've. You just let the truth eat me alive. Then the job was gone. And the audit started. That was when I stopped laughing. That was when the spiral went from theatrical to real. And that's when I saw myself clearly. A 31-year-old woman who had lied about dying just to avoid living. That line. I had to read it twice. Because that was Danielle. Entirely. Finally. Without the filter. Not a monster. Not a victim. Just a woman who couldn't stand the thought of being ordinary. I don't expect you to reply. I don't think you want to. But I need you to know. Every dollar I send is not for redemption. It's not even for you. It's for me. For proof that I can do something real. For proof that I can carry weight instead of escaping it. I still owe you $9,725. It might take years. But I'll pay it. And every payment will be a line scratched into the stone of who I used to be. A name I hope I forget one day. And maybe someday when I'm working some boring job with a 401k and no audience, and someone calls me dependable, I'll think of this moment. Not as shame, but as the first time I finally stopped performing. The letter ended there. No love, Danielle. No apology even. Just the final line drifting away like a last note in an empty concert hall. I sat with it for a long time. Not angry. Not satisfied. Just still. Later that night, I pulled the USB from the drawer. The one marked Danielle fraud. I didn't destroy it. I'm not that sentimental. But I moved it. To a different drawer. One I don't open anymore. The next day I received another money order. $200. No note. No envelope. Just the stub and the payment folded once. Neat. Precise. Like she was building something again slowly, honestly. Brick by honest brick. It arrived on the first truly cold morning of December. The envelope was cream-colored, thick. No return address. My name was handwritten in blue ink. Neat enough to be deliberate, but with just enough hesitation to betray her. I didn't open it right away. I left it on the edge of the kitchen counter for hours, as if it needed to earn my attention. But eventually, when the sun had slipped below the rooftops and the house had gone quiet, I opened it. Inside, 10 full pages of Danielle's handwriting. No greeting. No signature. Just a long, uninterrupted confession. Equal parts memoir, dissection, and slow surgical apology. I think I lied so easily because I've been lying for years. Not just to other people, to myself. I've lived in performance mode for so long I forgot what it felt like to just exist. You already know the big lie. But there were others. I lied about losing my job in Austin. I quit before I was fired. I lied about the car accident in San Diego. There was no hit and run. I totaled that car drunk, parked it in a garage, and fled before anyone could stop me. I even lied to Mom about Dad calling once. He didn't. I just wanted to make her smile that day. I got good at it. You'd be amazed how easy it is to lie when the world expects so little of you. When they already see you as the mess. No one questions your chaos. They just pat your hand and hope you don't burn the house down. You were the only one who didn't do that. You asked for proof. You made me document my lie. And that was the first time I realized I was dealing with something I couldn't control. I read that part twice. Not because it surprised me, but because it sounded exactly like the Danielle I remembered, manipulative but sharp. Smart enough to recognize a trap, even if she stepped into it anyway. The Maldives weren't healing. They were a disguise. A stage prop. I spent most of the trip curating my own narrative. Photos, captions, filters, all of it designed to convince people I was transcending pain, when in reality I was just hiding from it. The ocean was real. The drinks were real. But I wasn't. I remember standing ankle deep in that perfect blue water and thinking, I hope Evelyn never sees this. Not because I felt guilty, not yet. But because I knew the moment you saw that post, the game would be over. You didn't reply. You didn't like it. You didn't comment. You just got quiet. And that's how I knew I was done. She knew. She always knew. Even when she lied, even when she framed herself as desperate or confused, she was aware of every choice. She was always aware. The IRS letter nearly broke me. Not because of the amount, though God knows $17,985 might as well be $1 million to me, but because it was the first time a consequence didn't go away. I cried on the floor for 3 hours after opening it. Then I screamed at the walls. Then I went completely still. The audit wasn't loud. It was surgical. And I realized that's what you are too. You don't yell. You carve. And I bled. There was a kind of horrible honesty to it. The way she didn't ask for sympathy. The way she owned the pain without wrapping it in excuse. It made the pages heavier than they should have been. It made me stop pretending this hadn't affected me too. When I lost my job, I expected rage. I expected you to gloat. You didn't. You didn't say a word. That was worse. Because it meant you weren't trying to punish me. You were letting the punishment happen on its own. I kept thinking, if she would just scream at me, then I could scream back. Then I could fight. But there was nothing to fight. Just silence. Just that folder in your drawer. Just the slow collapse of every illusion I'd built. You didn't destroy me. You just let me destroy myself. That line stopped me. I put the letter down and stared out the window. The street outside was quiet. A few lights on in windows across the road. The world indifferent as ever. And I realized, I hadn't just wanted justice. I had wanted silence. Her silence. Not her pain, not her apology. Just the end of the performance. I don't expect you to forgive me. Honestly, I don't think I deserve that word. But I want you to know this. I'm paying it back. Not because the court said so. Not because the IRS demands it. Not because it will undo anything. But because I need to know I can do something real. I started a spreadsheet. Every payment has a note, what it meant that month, how I earned it, what I learned by giving it away instead of spending it on something pretty or temporary. I'm not healing. I'm repairing. And repair takes longer than people like me are used to admitting. But I'm trying. Every day. Every shift. Every time I go to sleep on that lumpy couch in Mom's house and remind myself that no one is coming to rescue me this time. Least of all you. The letter ended abruptly. No signature. No goodbye. Just white space beneath the final paragraph, like she had nothing left to say. I didn't know how long I sat there. I folded the pages carefully, slid them back into the envelope, put it in the drawer with the others. Not forgiveness, but preservation. Because stories like this don't end with hugs. They end with pages filed away. So the truth stays recorded, even when everyone stops speaking. The next day a payment arrived. $200 again. No note. No explanation. Just a clean money order. Clean lines. Clean intention. And for the first time I didn't feel like I was collecting. I felt like I was witnessing a confession paid in cash. The payments still come. Small. Predictable. Unremarkable. Money orders in unmarked envelopes. Never more than a couple $100s at a time. No notes. No pleas. No apologies. Just payments. Each one chipped off the balance. Each one proved she was still there. Still trying. Still real. As of last week, the total repaid is $1,575. Which means Danielle still owes me $8,425. And somehow I don't care. Not in the way I once did. Because this was never about the money. My drawer still holds the folder. Danielle fraud. It's thinner now. The edges softened by time. I haven't added anything to it in months. I haven't opened the PDF backups on my drive. I don't check the court docket anymore. The IRS action has long since finalized. The lien is still in place. It'll follow her until it's paid in full. That's between her and the government now. I'm no longer part of it. She's in a different story now. And I'm not a character in that one. I saw her once in passing. Early January. A grocery store on Wadsworth. It was cold but bright. That sharp Colorado light that slices through winter clouds. She was standing in the bulk aisle, scooping oats into a brown bag. She looked tired but not sick. Not broken. Her clothes were plain. Her hair was pulled back simply. She didn't see me. Or if she did, she didn't show it. There was no flinch. No acknowledgement. Just quiet movement. I walked past her. Didn't stop. Didn't speak. And in that moment I realized something that settled in me like stone. There was no more war. It was over. When people talk about closure, they picture dramatic scenes. Tearful reconciliations. Satisfying apologies. Clean endings. That's not what closure is. Closure is the absence of noise. Closure is waking up one day and realizing you haven't thought about them in a week. Closure is receiving another $100 in the mail and feeling nothing. Not triumph, not pity, just a nod to the transaction. Closure is silence where the lie used to live. Our mother still calls now and then. She never brings up what happened, but sometimes I can tell she wants to. She'll mention Danielle vaguely. She's still at the clinic. They like her. She made lasagna last week. From scratch. She hasn't missed a shift in 6 months. And I just say, that's good. Because it is. Not good like forgiveness. Not good like everything's fixed. But good like clean stitches after an ugly wound. No more infection. Just scar. There's a finality to truth no one warns you about. People think justice is satisfying. That there's glory in being right. But it's not like that. Justice is cold. Still. Inescapable. It's not the roar of vengeance. It's the hum of a locked door behind you. And once it's done, all you're left with is the quiet. Not celebration. Just stillness. Danielle never asked for reconciliation. Never hinted at it. Never once asked, can we talk? And that, more than anything, is how I know she's changed. Old Danielle would have crafted an arc. A story about growth and grace and closure. She would have found a way to be the hero in the end. But this Danielle? She works. She pays. She walks to the bus stop at 6 a.m., rain or shine, because her license is still suspended and Uber isn't in the budget. She wears the same 3 cardigans to work. She tracks every cent she spends. She doesn't post about her journey. There is no journey. Just days. And steps. And debt. She never asked me to watch. But sometimes I do. There's a part of me that still doesn't trust her. Maybe never will. Because trust isn't a light switch. It's a house you burn down. And no one wants to live in again. But I don't hate her. I don't wish her pain. I just want her to mean it. Every dollar. Every minute. Every silent mile she walks. And for now I think she does. Last month the final envelope arrived. Inside was no money order this time. Just a photo. A Polaroid. Grainy low contrast. It showed a small apartment, worn hardwood floors, a futon, a folding table with 2 mismatched chairs, a kettle on a hot plate, a corkboard with class schedules pinned to it, and Danielle sitting cross-legged on the floor smiling. No makeup. No filter. The back was blank except for 2 words. Still here. I didn't hang it. I didn't burn it either. I slid it into the drawer beside the others. And closed it. This isn't a story about forgiveness. It's a story about consequences. And about what's left behind when the lies run out, the masks fall off, and you're finally forced to face who you are when there's nothing left to steal. Danielle's story isn't finished. But mine? Mine ends here. Not with closure. Not with reconciliation. But with quiet. And peace. And a folder full of truth.